While a fan's passion can help spur a team to victory, that same passion can also lead to conflicts and sometimes even violence. 2 Dodgers fans are serving time in prison for the near-fatal beating of a Giants fan in 2011. In college sports, Wisconsin fans rioted after they lost to Duke in an NCAA title game in April, and police had to use tear gas against Ohio State students celebrating last season's national title over the Oregon Ducks. The fans set fires and tore down a goalpost to mark the win. We'll see if the Buckeye fans can be a bit more reserved when their season kicks off on Monday. We'll see. Former ESPN producer Justine Gubar has traveled around the globe to understand what drives the aggressive behavior of sports fans for her new book, Fanaticus: Mischief and Madness in the Modern Sports Fan. Justine, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, is this a newfound phenomenon in terms of how rabid sports fans are that we're seeing because of social media, that social media amplifies everything? Or is it just always been there and we just know about it more because of social media?
I think you nailed it there. Bad fan behavior has been going on since the beginning of time, since the days of the gladiators, since the days of the chariot races. There was a point in ancient Greece when they had to ban wine from the stands because fans were not behaving well. So it's always been around, but certainly today, when an incident happens, when someone gets beaten up, when a fan base riots after a college championship, you hear about it, and you hear about it, and you see it. So the feeling is there that this is a big deal.
I think my friends would tell you I'm a pretty mild-mannered guy, but I'm happy to admit in the last year, sports and losses have caused me to cry, have caused me to, let's say, hit my aluminum trash can in a spirited fashion. Why is that? Why is it sports that makes me rise to this occasion and practically nothing else that makes me break my cool like that?
Well, I think you're doing okay if that's all you've done. The problem is, if you take a punch at the guy sitting next to you in the stands, if you start burning a mattress or flipping a police car. Sports are in our DNA. There's something that taps us emotionally. It's exhilarating, it's entertaining, there are highs and there are lows. And it just encapsulates, I think, the human spirit. So when you get to fandom, you're going to see people as happy as can be and as sad and frustrated as can be. So none of that is unexpected or unusual.
How much of this behavior do you think is learned from somebody's parents? Because we hear about these horrific stories of the hockey dad who beat up the coach or the soccer dad who had to be thrown out of the field. We see it all over the place. How much of this is picked up from parents, or how much of this is sort of kids picking it up when they go to a stadium?
Well, people always ask me when I'm talking about my book, Fanaticus, who are the worst fans? And to me, there's a little bit of moral relativism there, selective logic. The worst fans are going to be the team you hate.
Right.
But I think you can say across the board that the worst fans are some of the parents we see. Those parents who stand on the sidelines and berate their kids and berate coaches and berate other kids. And that's terrible. That's no way to raise kids. And what's a problem with that is they're raising the next generation of sports fans.
And you see how intense it is. And I played sports my entire life, and the first thing you would always hear from coaches and parents, oh, it's just a game. But even as a young kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, I would always think, if it's just a game, why are parents yelling? Why do parents showing a side of themselves they don't seem to show anywhere else? Let's talk about the role of alcohol, because that's something, when it comes to sporting events, a lot of people point out to as being the main source of the problems. You mentioned ancient Rome banning wine. It seems that this day and age, the teams, the leagues, the stadiums, they're trying to make as much money as possible off the sale of alcohol. In baseball, you can drink all the way through the 7th inning. In football, a lot of times through the 3rd quarter. NBA through the 3rd quarter. And they don't care. They want to keep feeding you and feeding you and feeding you. How much of that do you think is a source of problems here?
Well, alcohol doesn't help. You certainly see fans who have had too much to drink. The problem is, and it's a delicate balance for all the people who run the teams, run the leagues, run the stadium, You don't want to punish the majority of fans who are well behaved, who are doing nothing, who deserve those 1 or 2 beers, who make no trouble tailgating in the parking lots. But then, you know, you've got to monitor and you've got to crack down on those couple of fans who go too far. And it's a challenge because it's really a balance.
When you look into the future and you see that sports is essentially the only live TV that people really still watch, it's the only thing that's appointment TV, is award shows and sporting events.
And you.
And thank you very much, and me, and your friends at PTI and ESPN. But I don't see this going back at all. I don't see this subsiding in the future. If anything, it's only to become more intense as kids from a very young age now have the social media. They have all the technology to stay in tune with their teams. A lot of them are invested in individual players through fantasy. What can be done to perhaps change the culture to ratchet it down, or is this sort of the beginning of even more intense sports fandom?
Well, I'd like to think there are ways we can mold sports fans for the future. You know, I'd hate to think of it in a really negative light, that we can't control people who are enjoying some of the best things we have to offer. And I think, and I talk about this in Fanaticus, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and the parenting and the raising the kids. And if parents can maybe hold back a little bit of their zeal and not be chastising the kids and the coaches and maybe set a better example of sportsmanship, that could bode well for the future.
You're always taught sportsmanship, and then suddenly someone was just playing hard. Yeah, son, he's doing all right. Interesting to see.
Exactly.
Justine Gubar from the Worldwide Leader and your new book, Fanaticus, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.